हेलो एवरीवन, एसबीबी में आपका स्वागत है। तो आज हम BEGC 141 अंडरस्टैंडिंग प्रोज यूनिट सेकेंड चैप्टर मिजरी बाय एंटन चेकव. Now let us discuss the summary. This is a story of a father grief over the death of his son. The grief is within him and he desperately wants to speak about it to lighten his burdensome misery. But no one is ready to listen to him. The story describes the old man urges to share his grief with others, his despair at not being able to find a compassionate audience, and his final effort to disgorge his misery by taking to his mare, his one and only companion. The old man in a grief is a sledge driver. He is a protagonist of a story. The other character who appears briefly during the course of the story are rider on his sledge who have neither the time nor the inclination to listen to him. They live in a world of their own and cannot sympathy relate to the old man in his grief. The story, The Misery, has a subtitle, To Whom Shall I Tell My Grief? While the grief is over the loss of his son, his misery is not finding an outlet to unburden his grief. After reading the story, note how many times the word misery appears in it. You will discover that it appears towards the later half of the story 5 times, and on a sixth occasion it is used as an adjective, miserable. Can you see the significance of this word in the context of title of a story? In this one word misery, the title accurately summarizes the mood of the story, carries it, tell us about the self-centered, unresponsive and feelingless nature of a human being in this world. The title, Misery, portrays the overwhelming grief of Iona Potpov, the old sledge driver, over the loss of his son and his futile attempt to share it with fellow travelers in his sledge. The first part of a story describes the old man's grief and his repeated effort to catch the attention of a sledge rider and his failure to make them listen to his tale of woe. The resulting emotion goes beyond grief and becomes misery. Hence, the title word misery appears in the later part of a story. Misery means a great suffering of a mind or a body. Here, the suffering is not physical but felt within the heart. There can be no cure for emotional distress unless it is let out and shared with others. The old man has to keep his emotions within, as there are no listeners to lend an ear. He has been rendered alone by the death of his son, but his loneliness increases when he finds no one with whom he can share his agony. He is slavery alone and therefore is miserable. Let us see how the story begins. It is evening. Chekhov describes realistic the shades of a darkness all around, heightened by the white snow. We hear a lot of a movement of a people, but in the darkness no one is visible. Iona Potpov is an old man, bent double with age and grief. He sits white like a ghost, and his mare stays still and motionless. All around them is the constant motion of a people who are not seen but whose voices are heard. The writer is able to focus on the loneliness of Iona, the sledge driver. He is surrounded by people and yet remains all alone in his grief. The darkness around him is measure of a darkness within him. He is like a ghost in a white for experiences a death in a life existence. The first passenger in an army officer is an army officer. He is in a hurry to reach his destination. He is a contrast to Iona in every respect. Iona is old and weary. The officer is young and full of life. Iona is lost in a grief. The officer jokes in a light-hearted mood. Iona desperately seeks the officer's attention. The officer sits with his eyes shut and ear closed, declined to listen. Chekhov, using stream of a consciousness technique, presents the continuous flow of a grief in Iona without resorting to a graphic description. The second group of a passenger on a sledge is a bunch of 3 revelers, young, rumbustious, making merry in a noisy way, with not a care in the world. They behave as though they are drunk. One of them is a hunchback. Despite his physical deformity, he feels superior to the old man who is weighed down with grief. All of them have no sympathy for the old man who tries to tell them of his son's death. The old man is gentle and kind to his mare. He does not sweep his mare to speed up. In contrast, the traveler rides rough-foot over his feeling. Iona is happy to see them marry, but they have no eyes to discern the old man's sorrow. An officers or a party guard, their attitude to the old father in a grief is the same. Neither can empathize with Iona's sadness. The old man is left alone. Let us see how the writer describes his situation. Again he is alone, and again there is a silence for him. The misery which has been for a brief space eased come back again, and tears his heart more cruel. With a look of anxiety and suffering, Iona's eyes stray restlessly among the crowd, moving to the and fro on both sides of a street. Can he not find among those thousands someone who will listen to him? But the crowd flits by, heedless of him and his misery. His misery is immense beyond all the bounds of Iona. Hers were to burst and his misery to flow out. It would flood the whole world, it seems, but yet it is not seen. It has found a hiding place in such a insignificant cell. One would not have found it with a candle by daylight. His misery is immense. It can swamp the whole world, and yet its immensity is not seen it within him, and no one can even fathom and depths of his intensity. Iona longs for a people to whom he can unburden himself. When he revelers are in his sledge, he is comforted with the thought that he has a company to share his grief with. To that extent, his grief is eased. But when he is back alone in his sledge, watching crowd moving to and fro, he realizes that a crowd is no company. Iona drives a few paces away, bends himself double, and gives himself up to him misery. Once more attempt to speak a young cabman proves futile. He is alone, but he still has his mare. He unburdens his heart to passive mare. For the first time he mentions his son name, Kuzma. He is gone. He has preceded him to the grave. He asked the mare how she would feel if she had a clot and the clot died. You had be sorry. You. Want you. The mare does not answer. It breathes on his hand, but in that unspoken movement, the animal, tender and unprotesting look, comfort the old man. He feels that he has touched a sympathetic chord in his mare, the only possession he has still with him. He pours his heart out to her. He had found an outlet for his grief in the mare's really listening. Is she compassionate and understanding, or is the last part of a story just the old man's fancy? The ending is deliberately left inconclusive, but the story drives home the point that humans are basically insensitive to others' pain and lack any involvement and sharing in a grief of a fellowmanship. Thank you.